Oh, again, guys, welcome to our next episode of Man Talk, and today's going to be another bodybuilding focused sort of discussion. Really, just sort of giving you guys feedback on my progress. It's been about a week since the last time I kind of did a measurement video, and I've got progress to report on that, which is fantastic. Week really isn't that long a time when it comes to be able to change the shaping, or changing the shape of your body, or adding muscle, or losing fat, so on and so forth. Certainly in a visible sense anyway, when you stand in front of the mirror. Can you tell the difference after a week? But when you train hard, you can get at least measurable results, which is exactly what's happening. So at the moment, my diet is on point. There's no refined sugars in my diet. I'm eating regularly. I'm having the calories I need. But at the same time as having a on-point diet, my cardio is also just bang on. I'm doing at least 20k a day on the bike. I'm normally doing 20 to 30 minutes worth of gardening at night just before bed. I know it doesn't sound like much, but when you're pushing a lawnmower up a really steep hill, up and down for 20 minutes, that takes its effect. And on top of that, I've done about 2 to 3 hours worth of swimming this week alone, on top of everything else. This will take effect. And of course you'd expect, what have you gone down to? What's your weight now, Al? How many pounds have you lost? No. Over the last sort of week and a half, I've actually gained about 3 pounds. Now, trust me guys, when I went onto the scales and I weighed in at 20 stone dead, which is 280 pounds, I was 277 about a week and a half ago. Wow, I was a bit, oh dear, what's going on? I need to go measure myself, because sometimes the scales will say you've gone up, and if your waistline's gone up, yeah, you've possibly put on a bit of weight, right? In that time period, maybe a bit, mostly water, but maybe a bit of fat also. But when you go in and measure, like I'm about to tell you now, and your waist is the same, but some of the other areas on your body have gone up, and you feel good. I mean, look, I feel really solid. My physique is starting to come through. You can see my chest is shaping up, my shoulders, are shaping up. I mean, the size has always been there, but the shape is starting to come through. You can see my sort of bodybuilding roots in that sense through this t-shirt. And I'm just, as I say, I'm actually gobsmacked. Now, why has this happened? Well, first of all, hard work and discipline pay off. And I'm transitioning at the moment from a light phase style of training to a medium phase style of training. So I train old school Russian weightlifting sort of regimes, okay? So I do 3 to 5 months of light phase, which is a lot of reps, normally about 3 months of a medium phase, which is heavier weights, lower reps, sort of between the sort of 8 to 12 rep mark, whereas in the light phase, it's more like around the 16 to 20 rep mark per set. And then eventually I'll go into a heavy phase, which is where I specialize in strength, and I'll be doing at most 4 reps a set at that point. But, going for single rep maxes and double rep maxes, things like this, right? And going from one phase to another, as I've done over the last week, often does stimulate a bit of growth. The body all of a sudden isn't being depleted when going from the light phase to the medium phase. It isn't being depleted by lots and lots of reps. The reps are getting less, the weight is going up, and the body responds to that, right? So this is something that I'm used to. But at the same time, I've actually started reading a few days ago some of Mike Mentzer's books. He wrote 2 books. The Wisdom of Mike Mentzer, and I think it's Heavy Duty Training with Mike Mentzer. I haven't read that latter one yet, but I've started to read. I'm about 70% of the way through the book in literally a couple of days, right? And I've been reading The Wisdom of Mike Mentzer. Those who don't know, he was the hero of many a bodybuilder back in the day. He was a hero of Dorian Yates. He was learnt directly from Mike Mentzer towards, I think it was in 92, just after winning the 1991 Olympia. Dorian Yates went to Mike Mentzer and goes, help me with my training. I'm making progress, but I really need to win the Olympiad this year, because he came second in 1991. And he was like, I really need to go and win the next competition that I enter. And my mentor took him under and showed him this heavy duty training principle of doing just one set, which of course Dorian already trained low sets anyway. I mean, he did 5 to 6 sets of workout, high intensity training, sometimes 4 sets, right, which was considered quite low settage anyway. But when he came in, one set, okay, let's try this. And then all of a sudden, he grew. In literally every workout, you would grow. And I think part and parcel of my own development over the last sort of week has been, I do have a tendency to overtrain. The gym for me is my passion, it's my hobby, it's my love, So I want to be in here, even when I'm tired, even when I feel overtrained and fatigued. I'm in here training because I'm bored, and this is, as I say, my sort of vent out on the world. And there's nothing wrong in that. If that's what you guys do, you can continue doing that. I'm not really super changing what I'm doing, but since reading Mike Mentzer, I am being a little bit more disciplined in my rest. I don't mind taking a day off, maybe 2 now, if my body feels like it. And it has felt like it's needed it. My arms have been agonizing over the last week. The last arm workout I did, which I haven't edited and shared yet, but guys, it's a really big one. It's a right stinker, it's beautiful. Absolutely diabolically, it's absolutely brilliant, right? Stonking good workout. And my arms are nearly a week later still somewhat aching. Today's the first day where the constant ache has gone, so I need to leave it maybe 2, maybe 3 more days at least before I start training my arms again, because now that they're kind of recovered, they now need to sort of overreact to that training, so over recover, and that means grow, right? Because remember, the mechanisms of repair are identical pretty much to the mechanisms of growth and development of hypertrophy. So, if you imagine it, when a muscle's damaged, that muscle is repaired and replaced and reshaped, so on and so forth. But if you take that a little bit further, well, you've got growth, right? You've got muscle being added rather than just replacing what's being damaged. You're getting muscle added to the bulk. So you can actually increase your size and strength through the healing mechanisms. And that's why you need to learn to listen to your body. You need to know when you're too fatigued to train, because if your muscles haven't recovered yet and you go and train them again, well, guess what's going to happen? Your muscles aren't going to grow. They're not going to get to that point where they're in growth. In fact, they're going to be in constant repair mode. And if you keep bashing your body too much, you'll actually decrease in size and strength. This is something I've always known, but sometimes it's do as I do, don't do as I say sort of thing. And as I say, because it's my hobby, I've been coming in here, and every now and then I have overtrained, but whenever I pull back just that little bit, the growth comes. And now that I've seen and read in Mike Mentzer's books and his manuals, now that I've seen written down the principles that I have been taught, that I do understand and I do know and I do practice to some extent, I'm being further disciplined in doing the workout of rest. Rest and recovery is a workout in its own. It's a discipline, the discipline of going to the gym, the discipline of iron, the discipline of steel, the riddle of steel, right, is about coming into the gym, putting in the hard work, putting in the dedication, getting up early to come into the gym at the crack of dawn, eating right, not poisoning your body with alcohol or drugs or smoking or all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that part of the discipline for me has always been easy, but there's also the discipline of recovery. And that's where I've always struggled. Keeping me out of here, keeping me out of the gym, that is difficult. And that's where my discipline lacks, or has lacked quite often in the past. Not all the time, but it does lack. But now I'm having to be disciplined because I want to start making significant inroads and progress. Especially, I'm 35, going on to 36. So my body's starting to get a little bit older, so I need to start sort of, time's running out. You know what I'm saying? As you get older, things get harder. So I need to sort of work with my body as much as possible. I don't need more recovery time now, being older than I was when I was 18, for example. I need to work with my body to get now the maximum. My body at 35 is primed and ready to go for growth and development. You know, you can never compare the muscularity of a teenager to a man in his mid-30s. The man in his mid-30s, whether he's trained or not, is always going to be most likely bigger and stronger, because it's just the way a man's body kind of develops over time. And so, as I say, I'm working with that now just to try and make some serious gains. And so with that, as I say, I came in at 20 stone, 280 pounds this morning, which, as I say, was a bit of a shock. And I thought maybe I'll put a bit of weight around my tongue, but my waistline still measures in at 39.5 inches. I think that's roughly 100 centimeters, right? I'm not going to do the conversions in today's video. It's not officially a measurement video, right? But if I remember correctly, it's around 100 centimeters. So 39.5 inches, bang on exactly what it was last week, or a week and a half ago, whenever I measured it last. So I'll tell you when I measured it last, actually, because I've dated it here on the 16th. So that is 6 days. Okay, so this is a progress of 6 days, right? I did all my measurements: neck, wrist, forearm, upper arm, chest, waistline, and the 3 areas of the upper leg, and then the calves, right? And basically, most things were the same, but there was a couple of increases. And as I say, the increases were not around the waist. So the arm has gone up about roughly half an inch, maybe just under, about 0.4 of an inch, 0.3 to 0.4 of an inch. It gets hard at that point measuring it, because it's, you know, it could be measuring bias, or it could be a slight, you know, just error factor. But it's definitely gone up, and it's gone up to at most half an inch, but I think, as I say, 0.3, 0.4 of an inch. But as I say, in 6 days, 6 days to go up, you know, a certain fraction of an inch, and to have definitely gone up. As I say, the general movement is definitely gone up, because last week when I measured, you know, my arm was 100% definitely on 19 inches. Now it's most definitely over it. And no matter how I try to move it to make it smaller, it's coming in at a bare minimum. And so, yeah, my arms got a bit bigger, which is kind of makes sense when I've been telling you, my arms have been killing. I've had the T-Rex syndrome, you know, when your arms are like this. I've been walking around like this for nearly a week, and the muscles being, I don't know if you guys ever get that, but you know, when you're recovering, your muscles just flicker or constantly. And I associate that with growth, because when I get that, I know I'm growing. Okay, my muscles are repairing and recovering, and after recovery, obviously, comes growth. As I say, it's the response, the over response of the body to being battered, is that it tries to evolve and adapt itself to whatever you put it under. So the workout I did, as you'll see when I release it, was hard. So my body was struggling to move the weights for the kind of repetition I was asking for it. So its response is to get stronger, to make it easier, right? That's what the body does. It's a clever machine that works perfectly, and as far as I'm concerned. It's an absolutely amazing thing. But once you know how to hack it, yeah, that's, as I say, that's when you work with it, that's when you get the results. So my arms have gone up a little bit, and my chest has gone up, right? And again, this makes sense. Everything else, as I say, is kind of measured in around the same, okay? Maybe a fraction bigger, or, you know, as I say, little error factors. We're in the error factor range, so they're sort of where they should be. But as I say, where there's obvious gains, my arms and my chest. And this, again, it makes sense because I've done chest about 3 times since then, 2 or 3 times, and really good, intelligent workouts also. So it makes sense that, you know, the area where you've worked the most, which would be my back, because of course the back comes into the measurement, the chest and the arms, where I've only done 1 squat workout over the last 6 days. So, you know, and I didn't really push it too hard. So you wouldn't expect the legs to maybe increase, but the chest has gone up 2 inches. Again, could be measurement bias, a little bit error factor, but that does not add 2 inches onto the chest. Let's say I could take half of that away because of the way I've measured it or whatever. I've still gone up 1 inch. No, I measured in at 53 inches today, which is, you know, oops, just dropped my book. 53 inches is, you know, perfectly within the realms of possibility, because at my biggest, when I was weighed in at 308 pounds, which is roughly 140 kilos or 22 stone, I had a 55-inch chest. So it's perfectly within the realm of possibility, and that's exactly where you kind of expect to be. But at 20 stone, a couple of pounds and you gain, about 3 pounds of weight gain, and you gain basically 2 inches on the chest. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. And as I say, within a short space of time, just by applying these different principles, as I say, by applying what I'm used to, transitioning from the light to the medium phase, which I'll now be in for the next 2 to 3, maybe 3.5 months, it makes sense, right? My body always responds during that transitional period, but also on top of that, by employing extra rest. Now, I'd say my cardio's still been on point. I've been doing more cardio because I've been swimming on top of my bike and I've been doing gardening and stuff like this. So my actual calorific output is higher than perhaps it's always been. Weights don't burn weight. You're never going to get skinny by doing weightlifting, not unless you do it wrong, by doing too many reps, too many sets. You're using it as cardio, you're doing it wrong. Weights is there to build muscle. Weights is there to build strength. Don't use them for cardio because you'll burn out before you've burnt the calories. Your muscles will burn out from exhaustion long before you've burnt off enough calories to help you lose weight. It's not great. As an addition to cardio, yeah, weights do help, but not much. It'd be better putting your time into doing dedicated cardiovascular work. Rowing, for example, far, far superior to weightlifting when it comes to ripping out the fat and that out of you. Bike, running, walking, it's all better. Swimming. So, as I say, weightlifting, look at the strongmen guys, look at the powerlifters and that, right? Lifting weights don't make you slim. Not one of those guys is slim, right? They're big, right? So that's what weights is there for, to make you big. And so by me streamlining my workouts a little bit, bringing the volume down, 50, 60 calories a day difference, nothing much, right? That's easily compensated by, as I say, keeping the diet in check, and as I say, just doing, 10, 15 minutes on the bike, done, dusted. And bike is low intensity cardio, and it's still superior, as I say, to doing weightlifting. So, for burning weight. So, as I say, I'm really on point, making really good progress, making my gains, and that's how I'm doing it. So I've still kept my waistline, fairly small. Haven't taken any extra off, but taking size off the waist is quite difficult. That does take time because when you burn a pound of fat, that's over the whole body, right? And yes, because of hormones and stuff, men, for example, have that apple shape. So when we burn fat, it typically is off the upper body. It's not so much on the legs. We don't really store fat on the legs. So when we get rid of fat, you'll see a little bit off the chest, a little bit off the arms or whatever, a little bit off the waist. It's over a reasonable, basically the whole upper body. If you're a woman, then obviously it's around the hips because of that pear shape. It's around the hips and the lower waist and stuff like this. So that's where the body tends to rip fat away from the most because that's where it tends to deposit it. So, that's where the equilibrium exists. And men, as I say, it's kind of all over us. So losing a pound of fat over, what is a fairly large upper body, you're not really going to necessarily see it around the waist until maybe you've lost more like 4 or 5 pounds, and then you're going to get something that's measurable, So the fact, as I say, that I'm kind of going up weight but maintaining waistline is good because it shows that the weight that I've gained is high quality. Because even if, for example, part of that weight gain was water, it would still, it would fill me out a little bit and make my measurements on the whole everywhere bigger, but certainly around the waist also bigger, and that's not the case. So as I say, good quality lean muscle gains, 3 pounds in roughly the best part of 2 weeks, week and a half, that sort of time. I know it was about 6 days ago, but as I say, I'm considering the gains as a whole because weight can fluctuate up and down, up and down, up and down. But the general correlation is that the weight is going up, whilst my measurements in the areas where I want are also going up, but the basic measurements where I want to keep small, i.e. the waist, either staying the same or just slowly going down. Obviously, just prior to the wedding, the waistline came down quite quickly and it's kind of plateauing around where it is, which is what I expected. I think at perfect condition, I might only get down to roughly 38 inches. So I've only got 1.5 inches to lose. Bear in mind, I've lost 4.5 inches around my waist anyway. So you can see I've got less room to go now. Of course, the losses around the waist will start to slow down and plateau out. But yeah, that's it, guys. So just one other thing, one of the other reasons why I think I've started to respond better is by reading Mike Mentzer's books. I've, kind of, again, something but until you see it written down, you don't necessarily compute it completely. You just kind of do it sort of consciously, but once you start actively thinking about things, you can correct where you are making mistakes. And that is intensity of workouts. So there's quality in your workouts regards growth. That is intensity, which is frequency. Intensity as a product of like intensity and duration and so on and so forth. But intensity is basically don't get stuck in a rut. Okay, and when it's come to my abs, I've got to the point where I do abs every workout. I do conditioning and core work every workout before I do my training. And I come in and I do the same thing. And at first, when I first started it was very difficult. Now it's easy doing what I used to do. I mean, I can keep going and going and going, and I just don't tire out, right? But I just kept doing it because I thought, wow, maintenance, and it still has an effect. No. If it's easy for your body, it doesn't respond to it. As I say, during that arms workout, it was hard. And so my body's respond by getting really tired and painful, but now growing as a result. Whereas, for example, if I was to pick up a pen 1,000 times, it's so light, I'm not going to feel it. It doesn't matter if I can do 10,000 reps lifting a pen off a table. It's still not going to make my arm any bigger or stronger, right? Doesn't matter how many repetitions I do with it, right? And it's a similar sort of thing with the abs, and my core and stuff. I was doing things that my body was fairly familiar with. Yeah, pretty damn good quality because I built myself up to that point. But now it's easy. So now what I've done is I've kind of not, you know what? It's right. The intensity isn't high enough. So what I've done is I've managed to create a little setup using kettlebells and bands, wrap the bands around my feet, anchor them with the kettlebells. And now when I do my leg raises, for example, I'm doing it with band resistance. And it's hard. And it hurts. I haven't really hurt my abs for good probably 6 months or so, as I say, because I've become accustomed to what I was doing. And there's only so many reps you can do, right, before it becomes tedious, boring, and just silly. You have to increase the resistance, i.e. the weight that resists your movement. So yeah, that's what I've done. So as I say, guys, what I do recommend is reading Mike Mentzer's books. So you can get them on the Kindle. That's where I've got mine on Amazon, right? Or you can get the actual physical copies from wherever, any good bookseller, right? I highly recommend it. Give them a read. Some really good things. As I say, principles that I learned from my coach and from my own experiences of training. But having them on paper and refined just helps take it to the next level. So if you're plateauing, guys, in your own progress, definitely give it a read and start applying. Maybe not all the principles, because I don't necessarily agree with everything. I don't believe in one set workouts. I am more of a Dorian Yates man. I'm from the same city as Dorian Yates. I know him. I've known him since I was a young lad. So, as I say, maybe it's Brummy power in that sense. I'm going to keep it to the sort of 4 to 5 rep mark, which is what I did, 4 to 5 set mark. Which is what I do at most. I do typically 3 working sets per movement. But as I say, I don't fully agree with everything that's in there, but there's a lot of lessons to learn. And regardless, he's far more intelligent and experienced with weightlifting than me. It's just I know my body. I know what my body responds to, and he does right in there. You've got to consider your own recovery, your own genetics, and I'm using his principles, but just slightly expanded, as I say, more towards the Dorian Yates principles of training. But guys, as I say, if you're struggling yourself, give it a read and let me know what you think. All right, guys, that's enough for me today. Ta-ta. Thank you, farewell for now. The rest of my day, I'm going to a local shopping mall to go get a photo album for my wedding photos are finally done. So that's what's in due for my day today. And I'm taking today off from the gym, so it's a rest day. And it's a true rest day, not even an active rest day, just rest. Perfect. All right, bye-bye. See you now. Ta-ta.